Hello, everybody. It's Gina in the kitchen. So today we are making a little bit of a different recipe. Today we're making bread. Just regular classic white bread. For this, you're going to need a pack of yeast. You're going to need some water, some salt, some shortening or canola oil or some kind of fat, some flour and sugar. That's it. So the first thing is I've already got myself, that's a little bit more than half a cup. That's all right. So we're going to need that. And this is one where you might want to get a little bit closer to the recipe and stuff. And we are going to put in a teaspoon of sugar. Ruh-roh. That helps to activate the yeast. You want your water lukewarm, which is comfortable to put your finger in, but it's not cold. You want to stir this up really good. Okay? That's what you want to do. And you're going to set this to the side here and let that sit there for about 5 minutes. Now, I want to make sure that that starts working before you start getting out all your other ingredients and stuff, because if this is not active or it won't activate, you got bad yeast and you'll want to, not do it with this, and it's better to waste a teaspoon of sugar in one pack and a little bit of water than a bunch of other ingredients that you've already got in your bowl. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, grab yourself a big bowl because this takes a minute. As soon as we figure out that this yeast is working, I will be back. Okay, y'all. My yeast is going to be fine. It's starting to foam up. I'm going to let it sit here for another couple minutes and foam up some more. But while we're doing that, since I know that this is fine now to use, I'm going to go ahead and start getting the rest of my other stuff in this bowl. So, I am actually following the recipe here. So we're going to add the water. Calls for 1/3 of a cup of sugar. One-third of a cup of sugar. And my sugar didn't go all over my counter, but at least it's good and clean, so I will just do that. My counter gets cleaned off multiple times a day, so, and it calls for 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. This is 1 teaspoon, so 1 1/4. And we're going to push those things to the back. And we're going to dissolve this really well. We want to make sure that everything, like the salt and the sugar, are well dissolved in here. It helps the yeast and all that to grow and do its thing. So, yeah, we are just making a very basic bread and stuff. Alright, so we've got that fairly well dissolved here. Alright, the next thing we are going to do, let's see. And I'm going to also go ahead and add in 1 3/4 of a teaspoon of the canola oil. I'm doing that instead of shortening. 1 3/4. All right. I am going to pause here for a quick second And I'm going to take all the stuff out of my way that I've already used. And by the power of technology, we are back. And the dishes are done from all that stuff we just put in, and everything's put away. So, I've let my yeast sit here and do its thing. This is the next thing we add in. Y'all can probably see it looks foamy on top and stuff. They also put it in beer and stuff. Yeah, they use the yeast in beer. So, we are going to add that right into the rest of the liquid here. And now, let me see. Okay, so we're not going to sit there and disturb the yeast a lot since we know it's working and stuff. Now we're going to add in flour and quite a bit of it. So, and it's a gradual thing, you know. You want to add a little in and stir it up. Add a little more, stir it up, and eventually you'll have to just get in there with your hands and stuff. So, but we're not at that point yet. If you have a stand mixer, a large capacity stand mixer, it would be really good to use for this kind of thing. But I'm showing y'all how to do this by hand. Also, if you have a bread machine, those are great to make stuff like this with. I am just showing y'all how to make it by hand for those of you that do not have those things. So I think, you know, this is a lost art form anyway. Okay. So, there is that. We've got a couple more cups of flour in there. This is going to take 7 to 8 cups of flour. Just depends and stuff. Now, I've baked bread quite a few times in my day. So, yeah, I mean, I've kind of gotten the feel for it, so to speak, and stuff. So, another thing, I don't have this on my hand mixer, but if you have a hand mixer that's got a dough hook on there, that is also a really good thing to use on a recipe like this. I wish I did have one with the dough hook. I would love to have it because I would be much more inclined to show y'all some of my other recipes. But, you know, that kind of stuff, I looked at one and it's about $100. And right now, after having to replace the stove, extra $100 is just not in the budget right now. So, you know, we're making do with what we've got, and that's a wooden spoon and a big bowl. So, and that'll work, y'all. Our mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers did not have all this stuff, but they made bread, and boy, they must have had biceps, y'all. They must have been strong as heck. They put out gardens, too, and canned. Okay, so we're up to 5, and like I said, it will take 7 to 8 cups of flour to make this recipe, and that's not including the stuff you may need for kneading it. And yes, you've got to knead bread when you're making it. I'm going to get the rest of this in here. Once I get to the kneading stage, I'll be back. Okay, y'all, we're about 6 cups in here on this. And it's getting to be more work to incorporate in the flour. So at this point, I'm going to start the kneading process by hand. And that way, as I need more flour, I can add it in. There is a little that's around the sides of my bowl and stuff that I'm going to kind of scrape down so that we can use that. We will need it and stuff to get incorporated because this will be a little bit sticky and stuff. I am going to quickly take off my wedding ring here, because I don't want to get gunk all up in that. Because I don't like having to get stuff out of there. It's pain. Have to take something small and tiny and poke in there, and no. Gina is not gonna roll with that today. Can you tell I've had to get stuff out there a time or two? So, yeah. So, to knead dough, you just kind of keep folding it. You know, you just keep folding and folding. And over time, you can tell if it still feels gummy, or if it's sticking to you real bad. You probably need a little bit more flour down in there. I'm trying to knead in the bowl so I don't have a bunch of junk all over my counter, because I don't like having mess all over the place. That's just part of who I am. But you just kind of pull it and push. Pull it and push. And for people that are using like regular flour like I am, what this is doing is helping the gluten strands form. For those of you that have celiac and need to have gluten-free bread, there are good gluten-free flours that you can use to make this with. Now, you may need a recipe that's a little bit different than the one I'm using here, because I am no expert on cooking for people that have celiac. We're just making the regular old school kind of bread. So I'm just forewarning you that this is regular plain white flour. This is not gluten-free. And this takes a few minutes, y'all. This takes a good 10, 15, 20 minutes to get this all kneaded in. If I did this a couple times a week, boy, I'd have arms the size of some of these pro wrestlers or something. This would be a task for them. They won't get muscular. Let them bake bread. But, yeah. Some of these elite athletes, I tell you now, I have some mad respect for people that perform sports at a high level. I am not talented like that. I think, I don't agree with performance-enhancing drugs or anything of that. But if you are talented in something, I am not talented playing a piano or an instrument or anything like that. Where my talent lies is baking bread and cooking food, and even that's not always the greatest with me. But at least I'm trying, that's all that counts. My mom says that I got my grandmother's thing for baking bread. Her mama used to make bread and stuff, and I believe it. My mama's had 3 brothers and 1 sister and stuff, and they were growing up back in the day, when your mama stayed home and stuff. When moms were stay-at-home moms, primarily, and stuff. There were some women, I'm sure, that their husband, was no longer in the picture for whatever reason, that had to go out and work and provide for their families and stuff. Now, I have respect for that. My mother worked outside of the home and took care of the house and all that stuff. And my dad was in the picture. But my dad only had a 9th grade education, y'all. And he said one of his things was, you will stay in school and you will finish high school at least. And he wanted us to, he said, I'd prefer you to go on to college so that you can get an education, so that you don't have to work your tail off and stuff. He ended up with back problems and knee and foot problems, and that, I mean, you know, and I worked fairly hard when I was young too. That's why I've got the back issues and stuff that I've got. So, but I do have an education and stuff. My mom's educated. I'm convinced my mother is far smarter than I am. She's got a couple of years on this old girl. And I have all the respect in the world for older folks that try to teach us younger folks, you know, things. My mom said I got my grandmother's talent. Now I can bake biscuits with the best of them and have them rise up real nice and fluffy and light. My mother did not have time to perfect any of that. But you know, by the time I was 18, 19 years old, I could bake bread and make biscuits, good biscuits and stuff. But I stayed with my grandparents after school when I was young. And so, you know, I gained a lot of stuff from watching my grandfather and my grandmother both cooked. Grandfather was pretty decent cook. Now, he could only cook one thing at a time. He could not watch multiple things on the stove at once. But he could cook. And he, you know, made some pretty good meals and stuff. But, and my daddy cooked. My daddy cooked too, so, you know, my dad's parents, you know, they had 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. So they had a 50-50 mix. And what they did, my daddy told me that when they was young and stuff, one week the boys would do the outside chores and the girls would be inside, and the next week the girls would be outside and the boys would be inside. That way they all learned, you know, how to cook and how to, you know, take care of a yard and plant a garden and flowers and whatever else that they did. And my dad, he was born right at the tail end of the Depression. My daddy was born in 39, right when the things were looking better and stuff. But obviously his parents had lived through the Depression and stuff. So I never remember his mama, you know, doing a heck of a lot of bacon or anything. I remember her cooking eggs and making hot tamales and some of that now. And women like to eat. I've got her physique, though, I'll tell you that much. I do have my mother's physique. Short and chubby. And that's all right. My mom's mom wasn't tall, though, either. My dad's mom was probably about 4'8". She's a little, you know, squat woman. And stuff, stout looking. She's shorter than my mom. My mom's 4'11". My mom was several inches taller than her. That's all I know. I'm 5. Well, before the back surgeries, I was about 5'2". Now I'm probably more like about 5 foot. I've shrunk a little. Anyway, we're getting close to being done with this, y'all. It's starting to get a little bit easier to do this, and it is coming away fairly, y'all can see. So that means my gluten strands are pretty good. Now, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put a little bit of that vegetable oil on it. I'm going to cover it real good. I'm going to let it rise. After it's risen and stuff, I will be back and show you what we do next. Okay, y'all, I am back, and my bread dough has risen and gotten much larger, and we need to punch it down. In the meantime, one of the stones popped off my dang engagement ring, y'all. So, all you gotta do is literally just beat the crap out of it. At least what I call it. Just beat it. And you just continue to, you knead it again. And this won't take nearly as long as the first time. And I can actually take the dough out at this point and put it, I'll just put it here where we can see what I'm doing. And I put some oil on it, some canola oil, and stuff so that it wouldn't stick to the bowl and stuff. I just keep it in the same bowl because Gina does not want to have to wash more dishes than I have to. But yeah, so this isn't too bad. Like I said, you know, the kneading and stuff helps form the gluten strands and all that for bread that has gluten. Now, I don't speak for gluten-free breads because I've never made them. You know, that is something that I do not have expertise in cooking. And that would be, I guess, something y'all, if you need gluten-free, something you all would have to ask somebody other than this old girl, because I don't know. But, you know, this, you just want to mostly get the air out of it. And this will need to rise a second time. Now, this will make a couple really big loaves. 3 medium. Those little tiny rolls it'd make, or loaves, it'd make several of those. So, I am not going to stand here all day and just make more work. I am just trying to get this to where we've got, you know, it kneaded fairly well for the second time and stuff. Making bread is actually not all that hard, and people complicate it way more than they have to. Our mothers and our grandmothers made bread. Well, my mom didn't. My mom bought bread at the stove. I'm going to tell y'all, my mama, we got Wonder Bread, y'all. In fact, we probably didn't even get Wonder Bread. We probably got store brand. That's how we rolled when I was a kid. We had that store brand. Y'all know how that is. And stuff. So, but, yeah, that's just kind of how it is. So, I'm going to show y'all, basically. Now, you could leave it like that and let it rise out again and just put it on a cookie sheet and bake it. You could do that. But I'm going to show y'all how to do it in actual bread pans. And I've got everything kind of already greased up. You do want to go ahead and grease up your loaf pans really well. Now I've got 2 of these tiny little loaf pans just to show y'all these. So with these little ones, you don't need a whole heck of a lot of dough for those, obviously. And you want to let them rise till they've risen up to about the top of your pan here and stuff. So, let's see. And I kind of try to fit mine to where it fits nicely in the pan. When I get done with this, or this glass one, you'll see it a lot better. Because obviously you can't see through the metal. Just kind of make it in the shape of the loaf pan. Again, that one's roughly the shape of the loaf pan. Then put some in here and this one, and just kind of stretch it out a little. Making bread, like I said, is really not that difficult and stuff. People do tend to think that it's more complicated than it is. And y'all, I know some of y'all are like, Gina, I ain't got time for this. And that's fine. But for those of you that want to learn one of those grandma skills, I guess, here you go. And it tastes good. Nothing tastes better than bread fresh out the oven. Now, that one's in there. And now I've got my clear one. So, it is a little bit easier to see that I'm just kind of stretching it out here. So, and with that, we'll have 2 tiny loaves and medium to largest loaves here in these. Now, this is going to have to rise again. You do need to let it rise a second time. I think they call it proofing or something. But anyway, and then I'll show you what they look like after they've risen the second time. When we get to that point, we're going to need to have your... Oh, that's just a hole in there, I think. I don't know what that was. But, anywho, once we get the loaves risen and stuff, I wait till mine are like at the top at least, or a little bit over. And then what I also do at that point is I go ahead and get my oven preheated at that point and stuff when it's almost done. And then when they get where I like them to be, the oven's already hot. So, here you go. This is the next step in bread baking. I do have my kitchen lamp sitting here. I've got a floor lamp in my kitchen because I don't have an overhead light because my overhead light broke, you know. Such is the story around my house most of the time. I ain't complaining, y'all. Life is good. Life is really good. So, I've got a brand new stove to cook in. So, what do I need everything else for? That's just the way I see my situation. Why do I need to worry about things that I cannot control? And we can't control everything that happens in this world, y'all. Wish I could. Then life would be easier. But as y'all see, I am like covering the heck out of these to help keep the bread loaves nice and warm so they will rise up. I'll be back in just a little when these have risen up. And I have the oven preheated, and it goes in the oven at 350 for about 35 minutes, roughly speaking. Now, the small loaves will be done before that. But these larger loaves, will take a little bit longer. But I'll be back with y'all momentarily. Okay, y'all. This bread is getting to the top or pretty close to each of these little loaf pans. So what I'm going to do, I've got my oven preheating and all that good stuff. Goes in at 350 degrees now for, well, I'll have to check on the smaller loaves, but 30 to 35 on the bigger loaves. When I get through with those, I will show y'all what they look like as soon as they come out of the oven.